Today we're going to be talking all about whether or not the market is shifting and what you can do to still capitalize on this market as a seller. Let's get right into it. Okay, so I'm going to identify a few of the factors that are telling us right now that we are in a shifting market. The first is that we are seeing a slowdown in home builds. Now, there was already a slowdown in home builds, and we've been seeing that for about a decade now, really, but there's even a slower slowdown. And we're even seeing some builders offering incentives to buyers agents who bring buyers in, which wasn't happening before either. And this is a good indication. Sometimes people wonder, well, why does that matter? I'll tell you, because home builds typically, historically, have shown us how strong the market is. And when home builds are strong, we have a good, healthy market. As home builds decrease, we have a really competitive seller's market with tight inventory because there's not a lot of new coming on. So that is one indication. We also see fewer offers coming in. I've been talking to a lot of my colleagues over the last couple of months, and just in the last few weeks, month, 2 months, we're seeing a very different shift in the number of offers coming through on a home. Now, 6 months ago, during the whole pandemic, but up until about 6 months ago, 4 months ago, you would see 5 to 10 plus offers on a home. Right now, we're seeing maybe 5, but definitely fewer than 5 is the most common for a lot of really popular, hot properties that would have seen a lot more offers 6 months or a year ago. Additionally, we're seeing fewer home sales. Less buyers are out because they were fatigued, as we've seen from some of the reports in the last couple of months, that they were just fatigued, and with the increasing rates and buyers getting worried about what this means for them. So we're seeing definitely a decrease in the home sales. Now, since February, we've seen an increase in the absorption rate. And not to get too technical, but to give you a little bit idea what the absorption rate is, it's essentially if we were to stop and sell everything that existed right now, how long would it take? And during the pandemic, we saw about a month or so worth of inventory of absorption rate, and now we're seeing about 2 months. A healthy market is 3 to 6 months. So we're still below that average, but we're seeing that increase. So again, that points to a shift in the market. As I mentioned, the rate increases have definitely made people nervous, considering that we went from about 3% at the later part of last year to 6%, and then we decreased a little bit, which was good. But change in rates in that short of a period of time typically has people feeling a little nervous about what might happen, and buyers tend to like to sit on the sidelines, especially heavily mortgaged buyers who are going to really be paying attention to that interest rate. So we've seen a slowdown in that regard as well, because people want to see what happens. Now, I will say we don't know how long this, I will say, pause or freeze is going to happen, because when people see these less competitive markets, when they see the interest rates increasing, they tend to pause and want to see what's going on. That could last a month or it could last a year. We really don't know. And if you are a buyer out looking and you really need a home, I will say that remember that no one can time the market, and you really have to pay attention to what your needs are. And if you are going to be living in your home for 10 plus years, I really strongly advise to not get too wrapped up in the rates or even the price, because if you're holding on to your property for a significant amount of time, I will tell you that those numbers tend to matter less over time. And in fact, you can always refinance your home. So if rates do go low and you end up having a 5 or 6% rate right now, in the future, and when it drops, you can refinance. So you don't have to marry the interest rate. But when you find a home that fits your needs and you can afford it, it's good to jump on it, because shelter is important. So don't get too wrapped up in the market and timing it. It's impossible. We've also seen a lot more open houses come back, and agent open houses come back, broker opens, and that's when brokers and agents host open houses for other agents and brokers to come and check out the home. Those things are coming back, whereas during the pandemic, homes were selling in 1 to 2, 3 days, and you didn't really have time to set up an open house and have an open house, because the house was off the market before you could possibly even get to a weekend where we would have the open house. But we're seeing that come back, and so that also points to a little bit of a shift in the market. as we see homes maybe on the market a little bit longer and they have the opportunity to get to a weekend where they can have an open house. So if you're a potential seller in this market and you're wondering what you should do and you've been thinking about it or maybe sitting on your hands waiting to see what was going to happen, to see how crazy it would really get, I will tell you that you are at an optimal time because of this potential pause or freeze that people are feeling in this current shifting market. You're still in a good position. I don't know if I'll be able to say that in a month or 2 months from now, but here are some of the reasons why I think it's still a great time to sell and you should jump at the chance if you're thinking about it right now. Number one, the values are still holding really strong. Even though we're seeing fewer offers and we're not necessarily 20, 30, 50, 80 grand above list price, the values are still sticking and prices are staying pretty consistent. In fact, prices are up from a year ago, even though there are fewer buyers out. So we might see fewer buyers and maybe a little bit less competition, but sellers are still getting top dollar for their homes. Strong, serious buyers are still out looking, especially cash buyers, because they don't care about the interest rates and they are planning to hold their home for quite a while, so they're not too worried about value and getting a good deal. Also, people who maybe aren't full cash offers but putting down a substantial amount of cash are also not too concerned and they are still out strong. And those buyers who have been sitting on the sidelines, they're waiting because they don't want to deal with extreme competition and bidding wars, but they are starting to come back out through the woodwork and hoping that if they do have a home sale contingency or some other issue, maybe they're getting a mortgage with less than 20% down and it might have been hard to compete, maybe they'll be coming back out. So the strong buyers are still out and we are seeing those buyers who are sitting and waiting, not necessarily completely silent, but just waiting to see if it's going to be a good opportunity for them. So people are still out looking, even though you're not seeing crazy competition. As I said, sellers are still getting more today than they were a year ago, so you're still in a strong market to sell your home. And inventory is still pretty low, even though we've seen, as I said, the absorption rate, that those increased numbers in terms of inventory, we are still seeing really low inventory. So again, buyers don't have a lot of options. The ones that are out and serious and looking, still a good opportunity for you sellers to get on the market. And it's a good opportunity because there's still not a lot of competition, right? There's people out looking, but not necessarily a lot of options. So those buyers might not be ready to bid 10, 20, 50 grand over a list price, but they're still coming in with strong offers that allow you to still sell your home at the optimum price that you're looking for. And really what we see is not necessarily a complete tip in the scales to buyer's market, but we're seeing a little bit more of a balancing of the market. You know, hopefully more inventory continues to come on the market, giving buyers more opportunities to get out there and look, and sellers will still have an opportunity to get top dollar. We're not going to see a complete flip where now buyers are dictating every single turn of events, but they're getting a little bit more leverage, which actually is what we want. We want a healthy market where both buyers and sellers can take advantage of the opportunity to buy and sell a home. Now, one of the biggest reasons why sellers were concerned about selling their home in the height of the pandemic was because they had nowhere to go, or the prices were so high they didn't know if they could afford to buy something else somewhere else, wherever they were going to be moving to, or they didn't want to deal with the competition that they were going to be up against. And because we're seeing a more balanced market, you as a seller are probably going to be gaining some more opportunities to find another place to live that might not completely take all of your profits from your home, if that's what you're looking for, to kind of walk away with a little bit in the bank after you sell and then buy something new. So you're getting to a place where, as a seller, you're not going to feel so anxious about where you're going to go. There were a lot of contingencies because sellers were nervous that they weren't going to have a place to live. I don't think that's going to be the case as much anymore. And again, that's that healthy, balanced market that we're looking for. So there you have it. That's what I think is happening with the market and why I think it's still a great time to sell. If you have a question about your home or a question about the market, or you'd like me to come and take a look and do a valuation on your property, I'd be happy to do that. If you're listening to this from outside of New Jersey, it might not really be possible, but I can definitely help you find a great realtor for you to help you with any questions in your area. Reach out anytime, leave a comment below, like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff.